And welcome to my free tutorial. We're going to be creating a love monster today. So I create a frame really quick. I just use a pre-made mat and then draw in the size I want my illustration to be. Then I use masking tape, or you can use, there's special art tapes, anything, to tape around the edge. That way you'll get a nice crisp edge. It'll look a little bit more professional and finished when it's done. So again, I use masking tape, or I think there's drafting tapes, but just be careful when you tear it off so that stays nice. I like to use the Prismacolor color erase pencils, and I know I'm going to make spoiler alert, I'm going to make my monster green. So I'm using blue because that's kind of a nice shadow color to green. So just drawing simple shapes, and I practiced in my sketchbook to draw a few monsters first. So just using really simple shapes, that's all drawing is. So a circle for the body, and then the legs are like little sticks, kind of cylinders. Eyes, again, circles. And you play around, in your sketchbook with placement, like if you like the eyes close together, far apart, up high on the head, down low in the middle of the head. If you like big teeth, as you can see, I decided on some big teeth. I thought that looked cute. And then I made him round, though. I didn't make him sharp and pointy because I wanted him to be a love monster. He's friendly. I didn't want him to look too scary. So keeping those things in mind, even like sharp and pointy is going to be more menacing, whereas round is friendly and lovable. And then, of course, a love monster, in my mind, was not complete without some little heart-shaped glasses and some wings. So again, basic shapes, hearts, and then the wings are even heart-shaped in many ways, and then just little cylinders. And then going in and adding the fur, so just thinking of fur and going in the motion of a sweeping, flowing motion is what I do when I do hair or fur, just so it's like soft, unless you want it real spiky and rigid, but then that would be a different motion. A little love antenna, little hearts, very easy to draw, a line and then the hearts. So just keeping this really simple shapes, and you'll see how when we start adding the paint, we're going to add dimension that way, and it makes it look more alive and maybe more complicated, but it's really just simple shapes, and then knowing light, and making sure that you're creating a light source. So my light source is going to be coming from above, up at the left, you'll see. So watercolor, my palette here, and I will list some details down in the comments below in the detail section about my watercolors and all my supplies. But I'm just mixing up a nice green. I kind of wanted that olivey muddy green, but kind of bright, so I mixed with a turquoise and then a yellow ochre. But then I also add in some brighter yellow too, so that I could get a little bit of brightness in the fur. That way we have some nice highlights in there. So just thinking about that. And then adding some shadow violet to mute it a little bit, because I want it to be that muted green. When I first went in, that was a little darker than I wanted, so I just went and grabbed some water and smeared it on there. And then I'm defining the mouth there in the darker color. And I will go in with the lighter color there on the lip, because the lip's going to be sticking out a little bit. And just starting to add the fur, again, that sweeping motion, just like fur, so light, and then you can push harder where you want it thicker, and lift up where you want the hair to be thin, like at the ends, you want the hairs to look a little bit thinner there. Now going around the teeth, because keeping in mind the things I want to keep white or lighter than the monster's fur, so anything I want to keep white or lighter, I'm going to go around at this point. And so going around the eye and making sure to leave the rim of the glasses here. So you see where my line drawing is of the heart, but then also going inside of that to create some dimension to those glasses. And just adding that. And then I dab my brush off when I'm going off the page like that. I'm dabbing my brush off on paper towel to get rid of some of the, like if it's too wet, I'll dip in the water and then I'll dab on the paper towel. So just to get the right amount, and you have to kind of play with it and see what you like. Some people like a more watery looking watercolor, and some like a little more control. I feel like I'm kind of in between that, so you just play with it. And the water, like when you're mixing the color, of course you want less water if you want your color to be very rich. I kind of do a layering technique more or less, so I go in fairly lightly, and then I know where my darks are though, so like down at the base of the monster it's going to be darker because the light hits the top of his head. Behind the glasses will be darker because of shadow. Underneath the mouth will be darker because of shadow. In between the teeth will be darker because of shadow. So keeping little things like that in mind. But going in and just going around and then adding darker areas where the shadow, like so underneath his fur is fluffy. So it's going to be, to make it more dimensional, you add darker layers to the fur and then you leave some lightness there. And see, that's under his lip there. So that little part of his lip pops out and then the underneath will fall back a bit. So that's how we make him look more complicated, basically, or more realistic, is adding all this dimension. Now, you could just color your monster in a flat way, and that is a cool style as well. So I just wanted to teach you this, because if you know this, then it's very easy to go the other way and just do flat color. So there we're defining his teeth more and adding more dark values, because the glasses, you know, I want the glasses to be popping out a bit off of his fur, and then the fur back behind the glasses, so it's going to be a little dark and have shadow. Using one of my favorite colors, Opera Rose or Opera Pink here. I think Daniel Smith, one of them makes Opera Rose, one makes Opera Pink. So Daniel Smith and Winsor and Newton, again, my list will be down below. And just coloring in the hearts. I did choose a color palette ahead of time. I recommend looking at other illustrations or pictures. Just deciding what colors you like. I have always liked green and pink together because, you know, watermelon and summer, and there's just something about it I really like. So I knew I was going to use a lot of green and pink in this illustration. Doesn't mean they're the only colors I use. Like I do, you'll notice I'm mixing in blues sometimes and stuff, but the color palette's very uniform because I mix the blue in to make the green, or you know, so it's all very uniform in that regard. And then like that yellow ochre, you'll see me use that down on the ground. Well, I use that to mix up his fur. So everything just is very cohesive when you do that and you mix your colors. That's why I like to mix colors. I think it's cool anyway, just to come up with your own. But so again, see, bringing the pink down. So the pink is all throughout this illustration, so it's everywhere. So it flows. So I have it down on the feet. So just little things like this, you kind of plan in your mind, and the more you do it, the more you will just intuitively do this. But so I kind of had the pink all around there now, and then just adding the same green to his arms and to his legs, and remembering that the arms and legs are cylinders. So when we go to shadow, add the shadow to that and the highlights, you know, part of that, the part really facing us is going to pop out, and then the part on the edges going back is going to be darker because that's where the shadow will be, because it's a round object. So the arms and legs are cylinders, so keeping that in mind even. And like his body's a ball, so on the sides you could, you know, even look at shading a ball, and you'll see how there's the glistening area up at the top usually where the light's hitting, and then there's cast shadow and all different, you can read about all the different shadows. I'm not going to go into that here, but like the down at the base is, of course, where it's the darkest because the light's not able to get down there as easily. So, but there is a like reflecting shadow as well. So then I mixed up some yellow ochre for the teeth, just because he's a monster, so he's not going to have those bright white teeth. Also, in this one, I needed it to contrast his eyes in all seriousness, so it's kind of a fun addition to his monsterness, though, that it actually kind of forced me to add that, like, yellowish or think of a color for his teeth, so that was cool. And then his teeth add that nice layering effect in front of his eyes, in front of the glasses, and that even gives your drawing dimensionality. I use that a lot in my artwork where I add layers, so like something in front of something, and that just adds a lot of dimension. So going in with like indigo and shadow violet and mixing up some of the green with that to get these nice darker colors for the pupils and around the eyes and like in the shadows of the teeth and on the mouth. Again, going in and adding more shadow on the fur even for another layer. So that it, you know, makes that fur pop and layer out even better. And then on the antenna, so using this will be pretty much the darkest color I use in this illustration. So going on to, even the wings here, you can't even see them yet barely, but I'm just adding a little shadow. So for anything white, I like to do like blues kind of, or bluey purples for the shadow. And so then now I'm going in and adding that darker color, and I go and get some water and I blend it down so that it kind of fades nicely instead of being a sharp line, and then adding some shadow to the hands underneath the thumb and underneath the base of the fingers there, and then adding some under the glasses. because again the glasses are in front, so they'll put a little shadow on the eyes and underneath, you know, where the little nose is. He doesn't really have like a nose per se, but his nose area, I guess you could say. And just adding that shadow in there, adding it up behind the glasses and everything, and then still leaving some. See, I'm kind of spotty up there. I want to leave some because the light's hitting up on his forehead there. Just keeping that a little bit lighter, or him or her, I don't know. It's a monster. Monster. I don't know if he's a boy or a girl, but I think he's cute. He looks like he's full of love. And then adding the indigo and the green again for more shadow, like right up around the rim of those glasses. Then I'm going in, this is a cool color. It's electric blue, and you can't see it probably here, but it's kind of shimmery. It has some shimmer to it. It's really pretty. It's a Daniel Smith color, and I like using that. It's magical, like so on the wings, you know, since the wings are magical. It's fun to do. So adding that little detail there. Again, getting some more of the yellow ochre, and I did touch it in there with that indigo mixture with the shadow violet too, just to add the ground. And then we'll add some more shadow under the feet and stuff later. But and going around adding shadow to the eyeball, because the eyeball, we want that to look like a circle instead of just flat. So just adding a little bit of shadow underneath. See how that makes that start to look more round and a sphere, like a sphere. So just doing that with the blue and just a touch of the blue. So like a lot of water on your brush, but just a little dab of the blue on the brush. And then going in and just keep going back and forth and adding more and more shadow here to make this little monster come to life. So watercolor is a lot about layering. In the style that I create illustrations, is do a lot of layering. And so I go from light to dark. So it's opposite of acrylic. And you just want to reserve your light areas and remember to keep them light, because you can't cover over as easily as you can with acrylic. Acrylic, you can, of course, if you mess up, cover over really easily. Watercolor, you want to keep that the luminance of it, you know, when some of the white shining through, and you don't want to get all muddy with it. So you just reserve your lighter areas and just make note of that instead. So it's a little bit opposite for anybody who paints with acrylic, just something to keep in mind. But just really defining some of the details. Now we're really at the point where we're mostly adding detail here. So just going in and adding that indigo, shadow violet, green mix for the shadow underneath the little monster here. Just not even, see how that makes the little feet pop and everything. So just all the little layering things you do are fun. And watercolor is so cool because you see how the colors kind of glaze over each other. So the layering creates a lot of magic in watercolor. So, you know, not something to be I think I like all the layers, honestly. It adds something special to it, I think. So then adding more of that opera rose, but in a much darker concentration, so just more paint than water, to make these shoes have a shape. So see how I'm making the sides of the shoes? And then, so again, thinking of the shoes as little cylinders, but these ones are actually kind of coming towards us here. So adding the shadow there, and see, look at that. So, but just looking at everything as very simple shape, and then it makes drawing a lot easier. So everything is just super simple shapes. You got your circles and your cylinders. This guy's almost all circle and cylinder. And then just adding little simple laces. I was going to do the crisscross laces, but decided not to. So I just did the, you know, laces, like the ladder style. Coming in with a white pen, I use a couple different. I use a Signo, and then I also use the Jelly Roll. The Signo kind of works better, so I actually will end up switching to that. But the Jelly Roll here, just adding a little bit of white to the teeth so they pop out even more in front here, because they were kind of blending with the eyes. So just to get them to pop out. And then, of course, to add to the shoelaces here, where the little bows tied, and then the laces. So here I switched to the Signo. And this one's not working, so I'm going to grab another one. But I like these Signos. Again, you'll find everything down below in the description. But these, I think, add a really nice white. Like, you can really see it. So it's probably my favorite. Well, it is. It's my favorite white pen to use because it's got a fine tip. And I usually use it for highlights. So it works really well for that. So just going around with my white pen and adding all the little highlights to the glasses up there, to the rims where the sun or the light would be hitting. Again, it's just little details, but look at how it changes the image. See, now you can see the rim of the glasses since I went over where the nose would be there, the rim. And add a little gleam to the eye and gleam to the teeth. Just a nice touch, you know. It really kind of brings the whole thing together, I think. So I really like doing that. So then coming in and just adding a little, I tried to add some white to the wing, but it didn't really matter. So I'm adding a little white to the hearts, so where the light would be hitting, so they look a little rounder. Just defining those shoelaces a little more. Sometimes I have to do a couple layers of the white to really make it pop. And then coming up close, I decided I wanted to do a background so that the wings and everything stand out a little better. So going in with like a turquoise and electric blue mixture to just define, it's a light background, but just to define those wings and make everything stand out a little better. I just think that it was a last minute decision. I was going to keep everything white, but I kind of like how this turned out. Maybe you can comment below and see what you think, but I love this color. It's like my favorite color, and I used it to mix up the green, so it's very cohesive again, and you can just see those wings really well. So I like how it turned out, and I even feel like it kind of helps with the ground as well. It's just like bringing that down to the ground, it kind of shows off that ground a little better too. So I'm happy with the decision. So yep, so that is how you create a little love monster. So thank you to all of you who voted, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Again, this is my free gift to you. I just am so grateful for everyone that follows and supports me and my art. So if you have any questions, just leave them below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. And I love to help people with their art, so just let me know. I do have some fun classes as well if you're interested in getting a little more in-depth in watercolor. I sell them pretty low price on my Etsy. I'll be adding another one soon for portraiture that you can purchase if you're interested. So again, this is my free gift, and this gives you a real gist of watercolor. I enjoy it a lot, so I just wanted to share that with you so that you can, you know, learn. And I'm self-taught, so I just kind of figured it out. So you put your spin on it, and then we all create different art, which I always think is so cool. Every artist creates different. I mean, so even if you create the same monster or one that looks similar, yours will look different. So hope you have lots of fun creating your love monsters, and hope it makes you smile, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining me.